Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round. I'm your host James Graham, and today I am joined by a Roosters legend, not just what he did on the field but off the field as well. He's got some great stories to tell us. I'm looking forward to hearing all about that and what he's up to in retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Anthony Minichiello.
Appreciate it, James. Thanks for having me here. It's good fun to be here.
Yeah, well, mate, I was doing some research this week about you, and mate, what a decorated player. Like,
I've been pretty lucky,
mate. Not well. Luck plays a part, but there was a fair bit that went into it. You know, just over 300 Premiership games.
Yeah.
2 Premierships, Golden Boot, all at the one club as well. Obviously, you played some international and rep football as well. But how do you sum up your time at the Roosters there?
Oh, it's a wonderful time. You know, I spent half my life at the Roosters. You know, I signed at 16. I was in year 10. It was 1996. Our first season was 97, and come up through the lower grades, and then made my first grade debut at 19 in the year 2000. And I was pretty lucky that year. I got to play in a grand final with the Olympic Stadium, because the Olympics was on in 2000 in Sydney, and we had 94,000, I think, there. That game was the biggest crowd I've played under. And that was my first year in first grade. So I thought, how good's this? But, I got to play with some wonderful players, legends, and still great mates now to this day. And now then retiring at 2014 it was now. It's a fair while ago now. I look back and pretty proud that I played all my games at the One Club. And I'm still involved now, so it's still a part of me. I would always be involved with the Roosters. It's just sort of the red, white, and blue is just sort of ingrained in my blood, you could say. Yeah,
part of your DNA.
Yeah.
I was looking at how the Roosters fared while you were there, but it wasn't all premierships and grand finals. You actually went through quite a little bit of hardship there as well, and some tough times, which I think people tend to forget. They just see this glamour club and they think, they're always circling up around the top 4, but it's not always been that way. How did you feel the club navigated themselves out of that all those positions?
Well, firstly, the Roosters, because we're in the eastern suburbs, always, everyone calls us the latte set and the eastern suburbs prima donnas and all that type of stuff. But within the 4 walls of the Roosters, it's very much a family club, and built on hard work. And Robbo, our coach now, is amazing at taking the players back through history, even to the early 1900s, to really look at the eastern suburbs and what it was. It was really a working class part of New South Wales, and they worked hard, and now it's become the most affluent part of New South Wales and Australia. So it was built on all hard work. So he takes them back to that, and that's the foundation of the Roosters. It's in our DNA that we work harder than anyone in the NRL, and that's what the players have in their head. And obviously there's a lot more intricacies around that, but that's one of the foundations that the club have always built strong winning culture on. So that's always good to get players to understand, because we've only got 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 junior clubs, so it's hard for us to always grow local juniors like Penrith or Parramatta. They've got a whole nursery. We have to get players at a young age from different parts of Australia, and then get them into the Roosters culture. And that's one way that Robbo really gets the passion out when you put on that Roosters jersey, is going back to the early 1900s and 1900s and really understanding what's gone before us, which is always nice. And for me personally, the first 6 years of my career was unbelievable. I had played 4 grand finals. I think it was 2000, 2002, which we won. Then I was in 2003 and 4. So everything came pretty easily to me. And basically I was you could say dietitians and nutritionists were saying you're very well put together, you've got great genes and genetics from your parents, and you can basically eat what you want, do what you want. And I wasn't getting injured. I wasn't a big guy, but the first 6 years of my career, I didn't get injured. Not one really soft tissue injury, not one major injury. And I played more games than anyone in a 3-year period, I think from 03 to 05. So I was, having a good time on the weekends, drinking all weekend, and prescription medication with some sleeping tablets, some anti-inflammatories and all that. I just had in the back of my head that my genes and genetics were great. I can do what I want on and off the field, and that's all it. I trained harder than anyone else, but then, we played harder than anyone else as well. So, but what I was doing to my body was, burning the candle at both ends. And, in 2006, when I had my first serious back injury, everything just come crashing down. And that was a run of 4 years. 06 back injury, 07 another back injury, 08 a neck injury, then 09 was a serious leg injury. So I had to really revamp a lot of things in my career then.
Before we get into that injury hardship on a personal level, you spoke there about Robbo going into the history of the club. And is that the type of person he is? He's always looking for a slight edge. Because you're in a salary cap sport, right?
Yep.
So it's something that really interests me. How, what can you do to get that little bit extra?
Yeah.
The NRL, in my opinion, and I think this is fact. I've not heard anyone argue against this, but it's the most even sport and competition on the planet across soccer. For all the sporting codes within America. I can't think of an example, and no one's ever managed to argue against this, that there is a more competitive sport and competition on the planet. Yeah. So you've got to, as a coach and as a club and as an organisation, look for a slight edge.
Totally.
Where can I see to gain a competitive advantage over my opponents? Is that something that you feel the Roosters do better than anybody else?
Well, it comes down to obviously good leadership, doesn't it? From even our chairman, Nick Politis, who's got great leadership, has been chairman for 30-odd years. Then it comes down to your coach and coaching staff and then your senior players as well. But, yeah, you're right. The competition, anyone can beat anyone on any given day from last to first. We've seen it in the last few years. The competition is so even. And players and teams are looking for 1 or 2%, and they can find that in lots of different areas, lifestyle areas, which we'll probably touch on. But the piece is, a good coach keeping everyone on the same page, working in one direction. And if you can understand the history, Robbo played for the Roosters. So I played reserve grade with him in 1999, I think it was, or 97 or 98. So he understands the Roosters and what the Roosters demand. They demand success every year. But then, he takes that a step further with the history and making sure that the standards are high and they have good trademarks that the players live by and the players want to drive. It's just not Robbo coming up with these things. It's the whole collective team having discussions and saying, these are our trademarks for the year, these are our standards, and this is what we've got to push ourselves on day in, day out, every day at training, all that type of stuff. So, a lot goes into trying to develop a winning culture. As you've been involved in teams all your life as well. It's pretty hard to build a strong winning culture. It's very easily lost. But once you got it, it's like a freight train. It's just momentum, and if you keep it on track, you're going to have some good years.
So just back a little bit there. You mentioned when you were a younger player, you trained harder than anybody else. You worked harder.
Yeah.
You were the fittest guy at the club. You had some big personalities there, and you like to have a good time at the weekend.
Yeah.
How was that with such like I say, a host of big personalities that like to have a good time in a day before, or a time before, phone culture and film
100%.
culture.
Yeah, we had, when I come in the first grade, there was no social media, no mobile phones that had cameras. You could go down to the local pub with the whole team, like 17 of you, and you would just get, yep, come in boys, here's some drink cards, here's a roped off section, go for it, That's all changed now, it doesn't happen, But so I caught both eras, which was interesting and fun in both times, but the early 2000s are awesome. We had Fletch and Rico and Freddie and all those big personalities that were always fun to be around, even if they were having a beer or not even having a beer, just at training. They were always playing jokes and having fun, and it was always having a laugh, and the camaraderie that we had was awesome. Yeah, so it was, but again, I come, I grew up on a farm, so I was naturally fit because I was always outdoors, riding motorbikes, riding cars, chopping wood, all that type of stuff. I'd started in gymnastics. I was a long distance runner, cross country runner at a young age. So I was always naturally fit. So the training side was easy for me. And so, when you're young, you could easily go out on all weekend and turn up the training on Monday and just run the house down.
Did you ever use it as a motivator as well? Like you'd go out drinking, having a good time, and then you knew you couldn't let yourself down or your teammates down. So on Monday, you'd just go bananas in the fitness sessions and
100%.
things like that.
Yeah, totally. Like I remember 2004, we were sort of in our prime. I was 24 and Finchy just come to the club and Chris Walker was there, Todd Payton was there, Michael Crocker, all young, we're ready to fit guys, but we all moved into a house together in Bondi, and I remember Ricky Stewart was like, mate, it's not happening. Anyway, so Finch and I went to him and went, mate, you can't tell us where to live. He goes, what about this? If our training and our game day drops in any performance-wise, we'll move out of the house. And Ricky goes, deal. So, it was on all weekend. And then we would train the house down all week, every week, week after week. And, I think we only lost 3 games that year. We ended up losing the grand final, but we were there. And we had one of the best years. But it was like, all right, we've had Saturday drinking, most of Sunday, and we've got training on Monday. We just looked at each other and just like,
we can't afford to lose this.
Yeah. So we just kept pushing each other on and kept winning all the fitness drills and training harder, It was fun times.
I bet it was. Eastern Suburbs 2004.
Yeah.
A few lads in a house together. Is that the infamous
House of Grouse?
House of Grouse, yeah.
That's right. Which it's known in the league circles. But we had a wonderful year. It was in Bondi, and we had this big 5-bedroom house, and we called it the House of Grouse. And we had many parties, and it was just the door was a revolving door. Anyone could come in and have a drink or have a good time. But it only lasted for a year, because by the end of the year, like, even we were exhausted, boys, we've got to move out.
You spoke about having fun. Do you think that's something that not enough people take into account when it comes to whether it be sporting team culture or team culture in the corporate industry? When you're dealing with children's sport especially, they forget to have fun, because I think we can all fall into that trap of taking ourselves a little bit too seriously at times. And obviously we're in a results driven industry, but without that ingredient of fun, if you don't create an environment that's fun and you can have a laugh, yes, we care, but we need to be able to have fun. Like for me personally, I just don't think it's spoken about enough.
See, it seems so simple, isn't it, when you just say, "Oh, we've got to have fun," but it's probably one of the most important ingredients in any person's success. And sport, business, it's some similar attributes. If you want to succeed, you got to have fun while you're doing it. Otherwise, it becomes monotonous. It becomes like a chore. You don't enjoy it. So, I think and you're not inspired anymore, and you're just going through the motions.
You're not going to give your best.
No.
If it becomes that way, there's no way you can give your best.
100%. Because you go in the training and you're same thing again, and you're just moping around. You're never going to get the best out of yourself, the best out of your teammates, because that one person does that, or even one or two person does that, it just filters throughout the whole team, and it's like a cancer going through the culture.
It's the old energy vampires as well, isn't it? You know, you get those big personalities not having fun. Like, it's funny how they dictate the environment, and if those big personalities aren't
100%.
having fun, they become energy vampires instead of lifting that
It's like
energy.
contagious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's even harder in this modern age because of social media and digital devices, and they're not allowed to go out and that much anymore. All that type of stuff. So it's changed a lot. So the element of bringing in some relaxed sessions, or bringing in the fun, where back in the day you just go, all right, boys. Sometimes Ricky on a Monday was, all right, we're not training, we're going to the pub. I remember this is like in 2002, we were sort of up and down, and it was mid-year, and we had a run of losses, I think 4 or 5 in a row, and we were training at Wentworth Park, and I think it was a Monday night, and we got the training, and Ricky goes, all right, boys, everyone put your phones in your bags, get your jeans and T-shirts on, we're catching the ferry, we're going to Manly, and we're going to the Stay-In Hotel, and we're having a drink. And everyone got excited, rah. So we went there, and we're having beers, and a Roosters fan walked past, and he gave it to Ricky. He goes, mate, this is a disgrace. It's a Monday night, you've lost 4 in a row, and you're out drinking. Anyway, Ricky stood up and went, mate, if you don't effing support us, piss off, right? And everyone sort of went, yeah, fucking Ricky, that's fucking unreal. I backed us, right? Anyway, that next, I think, towards the end of the night, we had to catch the last ferry back to the east, and Adrian Morley was running, had jumped over a small fence and did his hemi. So that wasn't good. But from that period on, I think we won our next 6 straight, and then we had maybe 1 loss, and we went into the last 9 games of the season. We won 9 straight to win the grand final. It was just that small turning point where you could, where we all just went, nah, give up training. We'll go to the pub and have a few beers and eat dinner together. Created that fun element again. Where today is different. That stuff doesn't happen anymore. So you got to find other ways and avenues, and that's where good coaching comes into it to replicate that. And then some coaches are still pretty rigid. So having a coach that has that in their mindset is pretty important, I reckon.
There's a couple of things I want to ask you about that. So you've seen your coach stand up for you.
Yeah.
To this Roosters fan. Do you reckon it could have been a setup?
Well, I wouldn't put it past Ricky, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, let's get someone to give us some abuse.
Mate, Ricky's a deep thinker, and he's a passionate coach. And Ronnie Palmer was involved at the time too, and Ronnie was always coming up with ideas on how to improve the culture because he's just such a positive guy. Who knows? It could have been. I've got to ask him.
Yeah, let's create this I need the players to know that I've got their back. We're all in this together.
So, after he sent that guy packing, everyone was like, Ricky. I was like,
let's get behind the coach. Let's get behind our man here.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a setup.
I know. I've got to ask him.
And then another point you say there, just obviously that was a little bit of rugby league and sports culture, throughout up until quite recently. How do and the world is changing. We've got lots of groups that abstain from alcohol.
Yep.
It can and does affect performance.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you find that balance, and what other ways can teams create that bond with each other without alcohol? Is that something that you've looked at all?
Well, it's firstly, that was the old system, right? Go to the pub and down 10 or 15 beers and all have a good time. But, you know, as we all evolve and sporting teams evolve and getting more professional, you know, you can't do that. But you got to actually teach young guys that, you know, that's just not the only way. Like having 10 beers and having a laugh. There's other ways to have fun, to bring camaraderie together within a team. Like the boys just come back from Queenstown. They stayed in a pretty nice area there, but they got some really hard work done. But they went on different experiences, or even like the World Club Challenge that the boys did in 18 and 19. You know, Robbo took them to Paris first. Robbo took them to Spain. So seeing other cultures, getting out in the city of Barcelona, or you know, riding scooters around Paris, all those types of things bring players together. And then obviously what Robbo does good too is he themes the year on a certain theme that he wants to create. So, and that sucks people in. And
is it like a story?
Yeah, it's like a story.
Like this is our.
Yeah, this is our roadmap for the year, and you know, it's like yeah. So he's very good at that. So there's lots of other ways. You know, that the old way is they go to the pub and drink 10 beers, but you know, the new way is finding different experiences that really create feelings amongst the players to bring them together.
Is part of that showing vulnerability within an individual?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And vulnerability and an ability to laugh at yourself as well.
Yeah, of course.
You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah,
you're talking about the scooter, someone falls off. Oh,
yeah. Exactly.
You know, it's probably not quite sticky giving it to a Roosters fan, but it's, you know, it's
that's right.
A version of that.
It's a version of, yeah. You know, when Robbo first came aboard in 13, you know, we all did personality profiling on all of us, coaches, players, and then, you know, you get, obviously those 4 different groups, and then you get grouped up with the personality types that are like you, but then you get the third party company to come in and they explain this is how this group learns and this is why this group does this under pressure, and then you really understand strengths and weaknesses in yourself, but then in others, and then, you know, in a game when you're under pressure and it's, you know, 75th minute and you can't get any air in, and you know their triggers, you know. So that was a real, I think it was a real great thing that Robbo did was, understand yourself more firstly, and then you understand the players in your team and how they adapt and how they learn, how they work under pressure, which was really awesome. Yeah,
we do all come from different walks of life, and you know, there is, you know, the stereotypical professional athlete and the stereotypical league player, but there is it's a spectrum of personalities, isn't it?
Oh, big time, you know. And you know, in the paper they print always the bad stuff, and everyone goes, "Oh, league boys again," and rah. But you know, that's only a small percentage. Like the work that, you know, all the players do off the field with the kids and hospitals and sick kids and all that type of stuff is phenomenal, you know. And the study that some of them do as well while they're playing to better their own careers when they're finished footy, which is great.
And there's a lot more to the player than the game itself, and I think what you're talking about is understanding what's inside and what's beneath them.
Well, you know, everyone's got families and kids and parents, and they're just normal people, but you know, they get put on this pedestal because they got a gift to play this, you know, gladiatorial sport, but they're still, you know, still go home to their families and have to be, you know, normal again. You got to really elevate yourself to get into the arena. Then you got to come off that and be normal again. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually listening to a psychologist who talks about, I think it's the 3 H's, like getting individuals within teams to talk about. It's the hardship, the happiness, and then something else. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but there's, you know, it's that recurring theme again. It's the 3 H's.
Nice.
It's interesting. talking about 13, people see you lift a trophy as skipper, but I think what doesn't get enough recognition for you, and there's no trophies for this, there's no medal, is like the near miss retirement that you spoke about. And it's easy to see someone that you could look you up, 300 games, wow, that's 12 years playing 24 games a year, whatever. That sounds about right. But then you look through, and there's some tough times there.
For sure,
for you, and that is, again, that's the image that people see. But can you just tell us just how bad was the back and the neck, and then later on with the knee? I've had some back issues where it's like, you almost feel like a bit of if you've got a fractured arm.
Oh no, you still move around.
You can still move around, but also it's visible, and people go, of course. And like, I know people that have had sore backs, and I know people that have had atrocious backs, and it's quite difficult to even explain to your teammates how bad it is. And sometimes they'll like laugh and you're like, no, don't do that, because this is serious.
100%. Like I say, if you've got a bad back and you've got nerve pain, it's only people that have experienced it know the pain or the debilitating pain that they're going through.
That's it. It's debilitating.
It's
it really
constant,
is.
Because like, nerve pain is like, if you've got a lower back injury, it normally runs down your sciatic nerve all the way down to your foot. So you cannot bend over. It's constantly there. It's just there the whole time, just gnawing away. It's just there. And, it breaks people down. So my first back operation, well, in 2005, I had all these flare-ups in my lower back, and I still had the thinking in my head, I've got great genes and genetics. That's what that dietitian told me. I'm sweet. I'll just get a cortisone, play on. That's what I was doing. Cortisone. I would get a cortisone on a Monday and play on a Friday night. Like, it was just crazy. And then, in 2006 preseason, I injured it again, and this time it actually took 2 weeks to get over because of the nerve pain at the heel and get strength in my leg again. I rehabbed that and I started the season, but I played with, which I thought was constant hamstring pain, but it was actually nerve pain, just slight nerve pain. And I played the first 6 games, and I got selected in the Australia Day test to play New Zealand after the 6 rounds. And I went in and, they do bend down, touch your toes, do the test, you tick, you're good to go. I was bending down and touching my knees before that pain would dig in, and that was it. I'll go back up. And the physio, Tony Ayub, was like, mate, go down and touch your toes. I said, mate, I can't. I said, I don't want to touch my knees, and this sharp pain digs in and I can't go any further. So I was putting on my socks in a weird way just to try and not feel that pain. But I said, like, every time I warm up, that fades away, because obviously the adrenaline, you're warming up and everything's warm. And then when I'd warm down, the pain would increase ever so slightly week after week. And he sort of kept asking me questions and said, mate, that just doesn't sound right. He goes, I can't let you play like this in this test. He goes, I'm going to have to rule you out. And he actually sent me up to a specialist, and I got an MRI, and I had a ruptured disc in my L5S1, which is the lowest disc in your back. Ruptured, permanently hitting my sciatic nerve. That's that nerve pain that I was experiencing. So they said, mate, you need an operation. At this point in time, this is the 3 years prior to this, I played more games than anyone in the league, because we made those 3 grand finals in a row, and I went on tour overseas to England, and I thought, you know what, get this operation, take the rest of the year off, come back bigger and better in 2007. So I did that, and 2007 played the first 10 games, and I played Origin, and then it was in Origin camp, game 2, 3 days out. I just jumped out of bed to put my socks on, and click, lower back goes into full spasm, and this nerve pain goes down my right leg this time, opposite leg. I get ruled out of that game. I go back up to the St Vincent's, get another MRI, and the doctor goes, mate, the disc above has done the same thing. He goes, mate, do you want to come back and play a contact sport like the league again? And I was like, yeah, of course. I'm 27, 100%. And he goes, look, we did a laminectomy, which is a pretty serious operation. He goes, I recommend a microdiscectomy, which is a bit of a smaller operation to try and not affect the structure of your spine if you want to come back and play a contact sport again. I said, all right, yep, let's do it. So I'll go in and do that. Anyway, I still hadn't put any connection to lifestyle and recovery and food to the health of my body at this point. And I come back in the 2008 season and I'm doing anti-inflammatories morning and night, like two, and sleeping tablets, and trying to, thinking they were helping me because I was just prescription medication. And I only played this again the first 6 games of the 2008 season, and I didn't do any of the injuries on field. Actually, it was always just when I was relaxed, bending over, click, back goes, or this time I was on the bench press and I push out a rep and I pinch a nerve in my neck, go out and play that game, and I realised I had weakness in my left hand towards the end of that game. And I tell the doctor, and he goes, well, doesn't sound right. Knowing your back history, we'd be getting an MRI. Back up to St Vincent's again. I was a regular back then. And I had a huge disc bulge in my C5, C6. This is when I went and seen the specialist up there, and I was sitting in the chair with Tony Ayub again, and the doctor is just like, mate, you're 1 millimetre away from your spinal cord, first and foremost, but all your discs are black. Like, in a healthy spine, they should be white. They're your cushioning system for running, grappling, wrestling. These discs are like a back of a 60, 70-year-old. I was like, okay, well, how do you fix it? I said to him, how do you rehydrate your disc again? And he basically had no answer for me. He goes, it's pretty hard to rehydrate one disc, let alone all of them. So I went and seen another specialist. As you know, we can get into, as a professional team, you get into the best doctors. They're all saying pretty much the same thing. So that's obviously when I was faced with retirement then, because 1 millimetre away from your spinal cord is pretty serious as a neck injury. So I started searching for answers, and I remember I'd met my wife through this period of a couple of years prior, and she was always pushing me to go find answers. But you got to find out the reasons why are your discs like this and other ones are healthy. You've got to find that reason why. So I just kept searching. And this is when I found Aaron McKenzie from Origin of Energy, who's a good mate of mine now. And he sat me down and he just started asking questions about, how'd you grow up? What'd you eat when you grew up? All these, lifestyle questions, which I knew what he was getting at now. But back then I was like, I was asking weird questions. He hasn't even asked me about my injuries.
Yeah, have you got a needle to put in, please? Like, is that what you were thinking at the time? Like, just give us a pill. Give us more cortisone.
Quick fix,
what's a better thing than a cortisone that can?
That's right. Quick fix. Get me back on the field.
I want to be back playing yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And he said, look, you said you can repair your body if you're willing to make sacrifices and do things consistently, but it's going to take time. But he was the only guy that really gave me some good direction. So I said, okay, done. I started working with him once a week. I'd go over to his training studio. We would do a functional movement type training studio, so backing off the heavy weights and doing more cable stuff, one arm, one-legged, which back in 2008, functional training wasn't that prevalent. It was all heavy, can you lift and squat and all that type of stuff. So he would film the last part of that session and put it on my phone, and I'll go into the Roosters and do that stuff in the Roosters gym, and that allowed me to do that because I was injured, 3 spine injuries in 3 years. It was pretty tough. So I felt like I was on the right track, and I was now preparing for the 2009 season. It's like round 2 down in Canberra, and I do all my ligaments in my left ankle, serious syndesmosis, and I heard this huge crack. I thought I broke my ankle. But then I sort of played on for 5 minutes, and I walked off the field and it's no good. I'd come back into the change room, and I literally just took a breath and relaxed, and my leg just blew up like a balloon. They said I'd got x-rays, grade 3 syndesmosis. Then like a week later, I was like, mate, my knee's sore. So they x-rayed my leg, and I had a spiral fracture in my fibula under my knee. And that was that crack that I heard. And they said, look, you're faced with 2 options. I was coming off contract. This is 4 years in a row now. And they said, you're faced with 2 operations. The normal operation, which has been the standard operation, is you put screws in, 6 months later you take the screws out. So you're basically out for 6 months. Or there's this new operation called tightrope, which you could be back in 16 to 18 weeks. I was like, I've got to take that option. I'm becoming a contract. So I come back in 22 weeks actually, because I was still waiting for the fracture to heal before I could play. And I played the last 6 games, and I was pretty lucky. The Roosters were pretty loyal and said, look, we'll give you a 1-year deal. Let's do match payments for the first year and see how you go. And that was in 2010. But then this is when I really honed in on nutrition and recovery, and I really dived into it 100%. And from 2010 to 2014 when I retired, those 5 years, I played with no injuries because I really dialed in that recovery stuff.
Just before we get into the recovery and nutrition aspect, you said you did that injury in Origin camp getting out of bed.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you what it was like. You've got, such a huge event. You do that getting out of bed, and people, if you did it at training, people would be like, "Oh no, it's this huge no. This, or you did it the week before.
Yeah,
be like, oh, everyone would be dead. Like, there'd be that natural care and consideration for you. But do people treat it like your friends and your teammates, almost like a bit of a joke?
Well, what happened was I was rooming with Greg Bird, and we had a team breakfast. It was 3 days before game 2, and I just jumped out of bed to put my socks on. It click, spasm, and I went, oh no. Anyway, I said to Birdie, I said, oh mate, I'll meet you down there for breakfast, because then we're catching the team bus out to Homebush to stay the last 2 nights. And he goes, you're right, because he saw I hobbled to the floor and laid on the floor, because hard surfaces would give my back relief at some point. So I'd laid on the floor. He goes, mate, you're right, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm sweating. I'm just ironing out the back. I'll meet you down there. Anyway, nerve pain started going through the leg, and I called physio, Liz Steed at the time, and the doctor come in, and they was trying to work on me. And I remember Birdie come back after I didn't come down, and he brought me some breakfast, and the team bus had to stay on course, obviously, and obviously the doctor said, look, we're going to stay behind with Mini, just continue on like normal, just so we know media and all that type of stuff get a hold of it, and we're going to try and get him moving, and we'll see what happens. We'll call Graham Murray was the coach at the time, and so they got me up and they whisked me off to a park, and I tried to do some movement and get it going and running, and it just wasn't happening. And I knew the nerve pain was all the way down to my feet. And I remember at the time, game 1 was in Queensland, and it was 2007, so I met my wife just prior to this, and I said, look, don't come to Queensland. It's pretty parochial up there, and my wife's pretty passionate. I said, you'll probably end up in an argument. Just wait for game 2. Just wait for game 2. It's all good. Anyway, so she didn't come to that game, and then I had all the family going to the game. I think I was on the cover of the Origin magazine and all that type of stuff, and I had to pull out. And it was basically the boys went off to their thing, and I did my thing, failed the test, and I ended up back at St Vincent's Hospital. So, lots of thoughts are going through your head, and saying, oh, look, now I'm injured again. I'm faced with another operation. I told my wife not to go to game 1, so she's never watched me play Origin. All those stupid thoughts, regret was coming into it. So that was it was a tough period, no doubt. But it obviously makes you stronger, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's just interesting to, when you have those injuries that aren't on the field that people don't see.
Yeah. Because all my back injuries weren't on the field.
Putting on a sock.
Yeah.
Like putting on your sock. Yeah. It even sounds silly me saying that to you, but I know what back pain's like, and when it comes on.
Yeah. Most people I speak to with back injuries, because I speak to a lot now, because they always ask me about my recovery, it's like, it was just when I'm relaxed, I sneezed and boom, or I went to pick up something and boom, and I said, that's the way it works. Like when you're like prepared for something, or you're warming up and adrenaline or whatever's going on, the body's ready. It's like in those relaxed moments, and you just go down to pick up something, and it just goes whack, and you're gone.
Yeah, it's strange, and like for those people that don't have back issues, it's like you're speaking another language.
Yeah,
It really is. It's strange, but you went through that period, and I guess you spoke about managing that was, anti-inflams, sleeping like that. That's how you think you become like. Well, that's almost not institution, but that's the sort of pathway that we go on as footballers. Like, just give me short-term relief.
Correct.
And I'm thinking about tomorrow and next week. I'm not, I'll just get through it. I'll get to the end of the season. I'll finish the rep season, and then we might look at it. But obviously, your circumstances were very different, and then you've gone on this deep dive. You're self-educating yourself, doing your own reading on nutrition, recovery. Did you do any courses, or was it just all information available to you online and through books?
No, I'm actually qualified nutritionist now, which I did through COVID. But back in 2008, I was learning off Aaron, and he was providing me lectures and books and whatnot. And I just dived into it wholeheartedly because I got it straight away, because I was like, this is the way I used to eat when I was on the farm. Like, we had our own cows, we had our own chickens, we had our own eggs, we had our own veggie patches and fruit trees. My mum used to cook everything up from the land. Then I was thinking, like, myself, my brother, my sister, growing up, we never got sick. We played all these different sports. We never got injured. And then for the first 6 years of my career, I didn't get injured. So we had this strong foundation from the foods that we ate when we were growing up. And, one of the first lectures that Aaron McKenzie gave to me was Weston A. Price, and anyone can look him up. He was a dentist in the 1900s, and he went on this quest to look at remote communities around the world and what they ate and their jaw structure. And then when the Western food come into it, how it just ruined all their teeth and narrow jaw. Kids were getting born, and he was like, there's something in this, like the nutrition, like when nutrition's lacking and it's all processed foods and high sugar diets, the health declines. And that was one of the first lectures that I watched. And then I just got so passionate about it, because I was actually seeing my own body recover. So when I started changing everything, I remember my wife opening my medicine cabinet one day, and she goes, "What the bloody hell's in here?" What? I was like, I could rival any doctor. But
you know what, mate? That is sometimes. I reckon there's a lot of footballers that would go through that stage where they've just,
for sure, I just started stacked everywhere, But then I just went whack, got rid of it all. Which is probably not good either, but I felt like shit for 2 weeks because everything was just coming out. But when I changed my diet into eating more quality protein, more natural fats, good quality carbohydrates, what I noticed first was better quality sleep. So when I woke up with more deep sleep, so I wake up with a clearer head. You could think clearer, you can make better decisions, and then the recovery part, the mental health, the physical health started to repair. And then I see my body just slowly repair itself, feel stronger, recover faster. All that type of stuff started to happen. And now, I've got comparisons of my MRIs from 2007 when they're all black to when I retired when I'm 34 and all my discs are white again. And I had professional doctors saying that it's pretty hard to rehydrate one disc, let alone all of them. And that just proves like what you put in your mouth and how much sleep you get, how much hydration you do, actually really matters for obviously short-term energy production, but long-term health, which is vital.
What about the recovery after a training session? Did that completely change as well, and after a game?
I was doing 2 or 3 Epsom salt baths, soaks a week at home. I'll go down to icebergs and do the hot and cold sauna, into the ocean during winter. I was drinking 3+ litres of water a day. I was dialing in the nutrition, slow cooking a lot. Bone broth was a huge part of my recovery. All those types of things were, like water filters on my house, and even in the shower and in the bath. If I'm soaking in water, I don't want it to be soaking in chlorine. Now, all those little things that were weird at the time, which are becoming the norm now, I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's full on. Like it requires a tremendous amount of dedication to live a life.
Yeah. Well, I was, obviously I was faced with retirement, and I didn't want to do that at 27, 28. So I was doing everything I could, and that's trying to teach young kids now that I don't want you to get to that point. My point where you're faced with retirement and injury.
Yeah.
Where you can put in steps now where you can prevent injury and have better performance without
and prolong your career.
Your career, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But before we touch on your roles now with the Roosters and with MiniFit, just finishing off your career, almost a bit of a changing of the guard there with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck coming into the team and that dual role that you both played. How was it being so selfless? Obviously you see this young superstar of our game.
Yeah.
Like, how was that?
So in 2014, what you're referring to, like, it was whenever we crossed the halfway line in attack, Roger would go to fullback and I would go to the right wing. And then in all defence, I would play fullback. So after 13, we won the comp, and Roger was up and coming winger, but naturally a fullback. And I remember sitting in the office with Robbo, and we just had this discussion. And he goes, "What do you think about a little bit of a transition period for Roger to ease into fullback? You're getting to the end of your career." He just sort of put it back on me, and I said, let's talk about it. I'm happy to look at it. How do you think it will work? And he was like, well, I'm thinking, as we cross the halfway line, you just fold into right wing. Roger goes to fullback. He can get some time at the back there with his attacking skills, work on his passing game. But in defence, you're the one that controls the defensive line. You've done it so well. We still want you there at fullback. And I was like, yeah, well, let's give it a go. There's no drama. So in 2013, we won the comp. We had Azura in December, and we played the World Cup. There was a World Cup that year. I played for Italy.
I remember that game far too well. We played in that
the trial match. That's right.
My head.
I still can't believe we won.
my head completely fell off after that. Jesus.
We thought we won the World Cup after that.
We did have yourself, Tedesco. Like, it was.
We did have a fair team.
You did have a fair team, but, mate. Yeah.
But so we come back from the World Cup, and obviously you get an extended break. You don't have to come back till after Christmas, New Year. We had our daughter on the 2nd of December, so I had this time where I was just at home with her, which was wonderful. But I had this. Then I went back to training. I found it really hard to get into pre-season again. I was like, maybe it's just because I had Azura and I want to be home with her. Then I was like, hang on, is this the retirement feeling? Because prior to this, I always thought, I watch people when they retire and they go, oh, mate, when you know, you know. And I was like, but I'm still keen on competing. I didn't have that feeling. Even after we won the comp in 13, everyone's like, oh, why don't you retire a champion, rah, rah. And I was like, why? I'm still loving it, still love training, still love competing, all that type of stuff. Then in 14 preseason, that all changed. And I sat on it for a while. So when Robbo sat down and said to me, oh, what do you think about this? I was happy to do that anyway. And I still didn't tell him that this was going to be my last year. I just still sat on it because my wife wanted me to play another year. But I knew that was the feeling. And then I told Robbo mid-year, and I think we announced it 6 weeks to go before the semi-finals. But that year, I think I scored 18 tries because I was on the right wing. I scored more tries. I extended the try scoring record, which will be taken by the Tupou this year. So, but it worked really well, and it was a good transition for Roger to move in the full-time fullback the following year.
Can you see something similar maybe happening over the next couple of years with Sualihi and Tedesco maybe?
Well, you know, it's you know,
Or maybe even Joseph Manu.
Well, yeah, well, Suwali or Manu, whoever it is, you know, they're not wasted on the wing, because the wing's a really tricky positional position. But they do a lot on the wing. They do, yeah, yeah. But it's, you know, they want to get in more important roles within the team, and fullback is, you know, one of the most important roles within a team now in defence, especially in defence. So that could come into it again, yeah, because it's hard to just go whack, you're in at fullback. Because, you know, back in the old days, well, not the old days, in the early 2000s, you know, in defence, you know, you just wait for tackle 4 or 5 for the kick and try and get the kick on the full and off you go. But now you're literally controlling the defensive line. Like, there's 3 people in the tackle, the third person comes out, and, you know, they don't think, because they're going up and back the whole time. They need to look at the fullback, and the fullback is pointing them where to go. So they need to get the numbers right every tackle. And where it becomes hard is goal line defence, because things happen like that, you know. And you're doing 40 metre sprints to try and cover the winger. If that doesn't happen, you're blowing, but then you still need to get the defensive line right. You still need to get the numbers right. You still need to look at who's the threat over there. Is it Thurston? Is it Cameron Smith? All those, you know, things are going 100 miles an hour. And if you can't organise that in a quick way, then it just gets overwhelmed. And for someone to just go, young kid, boom, you're straight into fullback, sometimes it can get tough for a full season. So the transition is a good way of doing it.
People don't realise how hard you guys work at the back there. Like you say, you've got to have that ability to do repeat effort sprints and be able to think and be able to communicate your thoughts. So you know, like you sprint for 40 meters, like you're out of breath. You might be able to know what you need someone to do, but to actually verbalize it in the moment, that adds a whole degree of difficulty.
If you watch something on Eagle Cam, which is behind, and you watch a good fullback that knows the control of the defensive line, if you watch a goal line set, you know, that they might have 2 or 3 spreads, the team doing attack. They might not score a try, but you're doing 2 or 3 40-metre full-on sprints. Then you got to actually think, look at the numbers. Where are they on the field? Get the numbers right. You know, do they stack one side so you can push another number over there? Now, it was all this sort of chess play comes into it.
Yeah. Well, and as well, like you can get it right for 4 plays.
Yeah, you get one wrong.
Get one wrong. It's like, why didn't you get the numbers right?
That's right.
It's like, or I'm a middle forward coming out tackle 3.
Yeah.
I go to the left.
Yeah.
And I should have gone right.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's where
fullback didn't tell me.
100%.
And you're sat there in the video room going, didn't tell you.
Yeah. Well, that's why you need to have a strong voice. That's, you know, like even so throwing a young kid in there who doesn't have a strong voice, you know, that sometimes doesn't work either, because, you know, you guys are going up and back, so you guys are blowing in the middle. You're breathing heavy. All you need to do is you need to look, or sometimes you need to get dragged. Countless amount of times I'm grabbing forwards and pushing them in the right direction, getting everything right, because you're on your knees almost, you're pushing it, grabbing, get back, you know, all that type of stuff. It happens really quickly.
It's so funny as well, some of those like little battles between like middle forwards and edges and fullbacks where you're like, you're tired. How many tackles have you made? Like, but how many sprints have you done? It's like, man, you got to tell me where to go. It's like,
it's good banter.
It is good banter. Like, it's always the way. Like, you know, doing that. Well, no, it's your fault. Like you.
I used to yell that hard.
Drag me then. Like, if I'm not moving, drag me. Get it. I don't care if you touch me. Like,
or even like sometimes if it's a 6 and 4 split, and the back rower, you can do maybe a 3 and 7 because they've stacked the open side, and you try and get your back rower to A.
Yeah,
they don't really want to go to A, right? But I'm yelling my ass off to get them there to create that extra number to get to the fence sorted.
Those are some of the fun times you have in the video.
It is
just arguing over little stupid things like that. Mate, when you did retire, I always find this really interesting on how people navigate it, and how big a change it was for you.
Yeah, well, you know, I was pretty lucky because I stayed at the club for 18, 19 years, right? They put me in a role straight away. I had MiniFit already set up.
Oh, it was already established?
It was already established. Well, you know, it wasn't... I had one school through 13 and 14 that I was sort of working with, but I already had the business set up. And then I was doing some stuff with the NRL. So when I retired and then got back into the work at the Roosters, I was still driving into the same car park. You know, I could go down and see the boys. So that transition was a lot easier in the mental side of things. And then I still had sort of MiniFit that I wanted to grow because I always wanted to transition into my own business, but that takes time. But I still think, even though my transition was smooth, it's still a 4 or 5 year really getting to know yourself and doing things for yourself again, and emails and having your own diary and all that type of stuff, because everything's done for the players these days. It's still a massive transition. And I think even not just league players, any professional sportsman that is not attached to their club or has got a job, it's bloody hard because it just gets cut off, and you're just in this world where you go, well, what's my next passion? What am I going to do? You know, I was earning great money here, and now I'm back down the pecking order here. So it's a real identity shift. But I was one of the lucky ones because I registered the name MiniFit in 2010, and I wanted to grow the kids' fitness side of things. And I was still at the Roosters in the environment still, and I was still working some stuff with the NRL, so you still get to go to Origin and all that type of stuff. So the transition was a lot smoother, but I still think it was still a 4 year period even for me.
Yeah, so a bit of a softer landing.
It was a bit of a softer landing, yeah.
Just on MiniFit, what's the passion behind kids' fitness? Like, why do you think that you need to provide this this avenue for kids?
Yeah, I always love working with kids, and the holiday clinics that the Roosters did when I was young. Just getting out there and putting smiles on kids' faces, and really getting them to value physical activity, you know, especially in this digital age where you can just pick up a device and you could actually if you let kids, they would sit on that all day, and you know, it can happen so quickly and easily and then they just get locked in this habit where they're just on the screens all day, all weekend, and they don't get out and move their body, and which, you know, physical health's great, but you know, kids' mental health is vital, and physical activity is a vital component to mental health and social interaction with other kids as well. So I've got sort of 3 different arms to MiniFit now because I'm still passionate about nutrition and health and all that type of stuff. So I run kids PE programs in schools, which are aligned to the New South Wales PDH PE syllabus, which is going really good, and I'm trying to grow that. And then I've got holiday clinics for kids that I run within the club industry, so leagues, clubs, bowling clubs, RSLs, and that's free for the kids to come along because the clubs, which is not really well publicised, they put a lot of money in the community, and you know the clubs will pay MiniFit, so that's a free service for the kids to come along, and that's what I love. So we get, you know, not just sporty kids, we just get kids that want to come out and do some physical activity. And
it's not league. It's not league.
The holiday clinics, we do have a bit of a league focus, yeah, but it's more multi-sports, interactive games, and then we talk about growing up healthy and strong. There are 5 foundations at MiniFit: hydration, nutrition, sleep, screen time. So there are 5 foundations that we try and teach the kids on how to grow up healthy and strong. So through the 10-week school program, say, we work on those foundations every 2 weeks. We talk about them every 2 weeks. We change it every 2 weeks, and we give them fun challenges. And the rest of the programs are traditional PE programs aligned to the syllabus. And then the holiday clinics is a bit more fun, interactive games, and a bit of a rugby league focus. And then, you know, obviously the passion of nutrition and seeing my own body heal I do a lot of speaking on nutrition, but I've just about to start, which is Saturday week actually, my own nutrition workshops where I get a group of people to come in and I'll talk to them through my story and then provide them with tools and tips on how to improve their own nutrition, their own health and well-being. Which is great.
I have to get some information on that and,
and
come along. I'm being serious. One of the questions, can you help me, someone like me? But you're also are you overseeing the Roosters nutrition program now?
Yeah, so in 2013, again, when Robbo come on board, we had Keegan Smith come on board. He was our strength and conditioning coach, and he was aligned to the same philosophy, eating philosophy, where we cut out grains and bread and the pasta and the soft drinks, and we ate quality fats, quality protein, quality carbohydrates through vegetables and fruits. And we had a food truck come in and cook us all this food. So we're on a great path, and we got a lady in to teach us how to cook and all that type of stuff, which was great. So we're on that path. But then I think through COVID, Robbo was like, well, we sort of lost our way a little bit with the food stuff. He goes, I've spoken to Aaron, a couple of people, and I said, well, through COVID, I've actually become a qualified nutritionist. And he goes, mate, do you want to get back on board and oversee the nutrition? I said, no, I'm happy to. So yeah, I was just pre-Christmas, just again educating the boys on 4 simple steps that most people can implement, which is easy. But just getting quality food, 80% of the time into their mouths. So the foundation is at home and through the work week is what we're trying to create. Where they're getting cooked for 3 days a week at work, and then they got the cafe which they go to, which we've created the Rooster Meals, and then we're encouraging them to cook at home as well, with the right produce. So we can start to what the end goal is. You want to provide the body with nutrition, which will then build stronger connective tissues. Strong connective tissues means less injuries, better performance, quicker recovery, all that type of stuff. So that's the goal.
Can you give us, I have heard a few things through the grapevine around the fasting element.
Yep.
Can you give us a little bit of an overview of it? You say like 80%, what's the 20% look like? Or is it we're aiming for 100? We're just going to give you a little bit of leeway because we're all human?
Yeah, well the 80-20 rule is, 80% whole nutrient-dense foods. That's work to a minimum of that because you're an athlete, right? So you got to be focusing on all this type of stuff. There's a couple of players in the team that really hone in on that, so they're up around 90%. But then the 20% is relaxed, right? So if you got the weekend off and you got a birthday on, or you go to a dinner or you go to a friend's house for dinner and they cook something that you don't normally eat, you're not going to say no. Like, it's just silly. Just enjoy it and have fun. It's life, balance of life, right? And then the fasting element is it's a really good tool to really accelerate the healing that the body does within. So the body does have 2 energy systems: one's sugars, one's fats. Now the body doesn't get into ketosis unless you're on a strict ketogenic diet, or you just extend the fasting window where the body is not eating, and then the body will switch from burning sugars to burning fats as a primary fuel source. And that's when you get elevation of growth hormone naturally, and you get autophagy kicking in, which is cellular cleansing. It's like, that old game Pac-Man going and eating up all those things. That's what the body does. And I've experienced both of those in my own body because I've tested it myself. I've blood tested myself, and my growth hormone is 8 times higher than normal.
Wow.
I had a piece of disc break off when I retired, and I had dead tissue, 1 centimetre diameter, just floating in my back, and I was fasting on a regular basis, and my body had ate that up and metabolized it as an energy source.
Are you talking when you're talking about fasting? Are you talking about like the 16-8, or are we talking like full day fast or 3-day fast?
I mixed it up, but the sweet spot where all the science is at the moment is 16-8 is really beneficial regularly. So 16 hours of fasting, 8-hour window of eating. And in that window, you can eat twice, you can eat 3 times, you can eat once. It's up to you and the way you want to run your own fasting sort of regime.
Is there is there an element to graze during those 8 hours? Like, you're just constantly throwing food in, or is it, no, you need to just keep it like at regular meal times?
Everyone's individual and a bit different. So everyone's sort of gut microbiome or genetic makeup is completely different, right? So if you feel like you are better on smaller meals through that 8-hour window, then that's it, go for it. Or if you feel like you need to just sit down and have one big meal or 2 big meals for the day and you feel good on that, then do that too. So when you're in tune with your body and you put in nutrient-dense foods or whole foods, the body gives you signs, right? You go, well, I ate that, and I just didn't feel that great, or my stomach felt a bit weird, or I have those 3 or 4 smaller meals in that 8-hour window and I feel great. And or even some days you're just hungrier than others, right? So you listen to your body, go and eat. So my minimum is 12 hours. That's my minimum. At least you're giving your digestion a rest. So it's not always working all the time with putting food into your mouth. And that's the minimum daily. And then I just see how I'm feeling throughout the day. Or I work with an integrative doctor and it's going on seasons, right? In summer seasons, don't do the extended fasting. During winter, maybe extend the fast a little bit longer. That's how the hunter-gatherer era used to, do their sort of eating patterns. Natural cycle of summer, winter, autumn, all that type of stuff. But the benefit of fasting is accelerated healing within the body and repair of tissue and cells and all that type of stuff.
So do you participate in any of the really long ones, like the 3-day? Or
I've done a few 3-day fasts before.
And are we talking zeroing, like water?
Yeah, it was just water and salt for minerals, or you could do black tea, black coffee, but literally on an extended fast, you get so alert, so in tune that if I had a coffee, I'll be climbing the walls, literally.
So that's a 72-hour.
Yep. Yeah, I've done them a year or 2 ago, or now if I want to do an extended fast, I'll just do like a day of no food. So that's like a 36-hour fast. And that's I'm a lean guy. I've practiced it for a while, so that's sufficient enough for me.
Do you have to prepare for it?
Mentally is probably the extended fast. You shouldn't, if you haven't practiced fasting, you shouldn't do an extended fast. You should always just work for 12 hours, and that's giving the digestion a rest, and that's easy because the research is don't eat 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, so you can release the right amount of melatonin to get quality sleep, and then when you hopefully in bed for around 7 to 8 hours. And then you don't eat for the first hour when you wake up. Just have a big glass of water to hydrate the body, and that's it. And that's 12 hours right there. So if you do that on a regular basis, that's great. And then some days, you might pick a day a week where you go, I'm going to do the 16-8. And let your body go into ketosis for a bit, because the body's designed to be in both states. Like there's some guys or some people that they go hard on the ketogenic diet because they're chasing ketones all the time. That's not good either. The body's designed to burn sugars as a fast-burning fuel, but then get into ketosis every now and again as well. And that's being like metabolically flexible, and that's what you want your body to do.
Yeah. Is there an element of this doing it for a professional athlete? Training, perseverance, training that discipline. I've got to be disciplined here. This is in the modern world where food is in abundance. There's lots of high sugars where you can go, hang on a minute, we need you to do this, guys.
Yep.
And there's a component of it. Yes, it's going to be good for your physical health, but for your ability to maintain the discipline 100% of staying true to just water for X amount of time. And the benefits come in there as well.
That's another huge benefit, is just not the benefits that they're receiving from growth hormone surges and quicker repair within the body. But probably even the big element is what you just mentioned, is like abstaining, saying, I know I'm not going to have food, and, you know, I'm going to go home and I've got kids and I've got to cook their food, but I'm saying, no, I'm having water. You know, it's that mental, which, you know, like any professional sport, it's almost more mental than physical these days, because everyone's pretty much physically matched, right? They're doing the similar training, they're pushing their bodies to the limit, but it's that mental application or the mental strength in those times of, you know, when they're just exerted or they feel like they've got no energy. But if you've trained it before in different ways, if you've been down there and you've done it, then, you know, you can push through on game day, you know.
And you know you're going to survive.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you're not going to not eat for 16 hours and...
No, that's right. You know, the old theory of the body goes into starvation mode and the body will start to eat
itself.
muscle, eat itself. That's 100% not true. The body will kick in the ketosis and eat the old and damaged cells first. That's how smart the body is. So you're cleaning out old cells that could be potentially turn bad as we get older, right? So especially for people that feel like they're a little bit overweight, they've stored body fat. What's that? That's normally overconsumption of processed foods or carbohydrates, right? Because the body will, you overconsume carbohydrates and the body will store those as glycogen units in the body, but there's only a limited amount of glycogen that the body can store in one time. And if they're not training their butt off every time, the body will just store body fat. So if you can reverse that through fasting, where the body will go into ketosis and it'll start to use that as an energy source. The body won't use that as an energy source and burn up fat if it's not in ketosis. And that means, you know, if it's not in a fasted state or if you're not on a strict ketogenic diet, which sometimes that doesn't work anyway.
So as a professional athlete, if you're into Roosters, you know, are you eating before you, like, is there, because the training sessions, I imagine, are so demanding.
Yeah.
Like, did you put time? Does training adjust to the fast? Is what I'm trying to ask. So,
well, during preseason, this is where you can test all this stuff out, right? During season, you've got to have all your prep done in preseason, and then in season, it's it's game time. You know, everything's heading towards the game. So in preseason, we've trialled a few things, and the boys have done really well. But, you know, also, you know, rugby league is a glycolytic sport. You need power, right? So you need, but what we're trying to create is have both energy systems ready to go. Yeah.
I read a little bit about this in a book about breaking two. They were trying to get all the different elements together to break the 2-hour marathon.
Oh, yeah,
and nutrition was a big aspect to that. And they looked at whether or not, full ketogenic, but they said you need that like quick access to instant sugar. So
a lot of the long distance runners can perform at really high levels on a ketogenic diet because they're marathon runners, right? So they're at one pace.
Yeah, one pace.
One pace. They don't need to explode and sprint.
Sorry.
So if they stay at one pace the
they
whole
can maintain
time,
that level of energy. They're
easy.
not going to have a sharp sprint, but with our game we do.
Yeah.
So how does that? So there's no ketogenic, but in terms of like, I'm just trying to think like in season game day. Say Roosters kick off at 8:00 on Friday at Allianz.
Yeah.
What sort of structure are you putting around that day, or what would you advise to put around that day?
It's always good quality protein. So, you know, grass fed and finished red meat, pasture raised chicken and pork. If it's fish, it's wild caught fish. Then there's always the carbohydrates will come from root vegetables, and even some cold white rice, all that type of stuff, just for glycogen replacement. Well, cold potatoes, cold white rice, when it cools down after being steamed, will become a resistant starch. So it won't elevate blood sugar, but it becomes a prebiotic, which is really beneficial for your stomach prebiotics need to feed the probiotics. So people sometimes just be taking probiotics but have no prebiotics and it's doing nothing within their gut. But also that's beneficial for their gut, but it also fills up their glycogen stores ready to go as well, the root vegetables. So now that's always on hand. So we want to have those both fuel systems topped up, ready to go.
So there's no like lollies in the dressing rooms. We're
going into game day stuff now, which we're working through at the moment. So ideally for me, no. But there's some people that their psychology is that's what they have to have, right? But so it's not like we're not going to scrap them all together. They'll probably be there, but it's all just education, right? So
because there are things that are detrimental to performance, but it is that players feel attached to it.
That's right. So we don't. So some people like to have pasta before game night, right?
Yeah.
So we're not going to take that away. We just hope through the education process and them trialing some new things, they feel better on that than this, and then they transition away from that. You know what I mean?
It's funny how you have that association to performance through what you eat. I wore these green socks, or players.
The superstitions.
The superstitions, and it's almost like I can't risk that
100%,
element.
Yeah,
like it's not going to contribute to performance whatsoever.
I know, but it's just.
I've got to hold on to that. I've seen players wear just like pink shorts underneath.
Yeah,
they got them for like women in league round back in like 2014. They had a great game. I know. I'm going to wear these every week. It's like
I wasn't superstitious at all, but my wife would always like me to wear red Speedos. But lucky the Roosters had red Speedos anyway. So
it is bizarre that, and I just because change in any walk of life, invokes feelings of anxiety. Even when you dangle that carrot of, you ask a question to any athlete out there in the world. Do you want to perform better? Do you want to improve your potential for performance? Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Is there a catch? No, not really. We're just gonna. You just can't. Just instead of eating that, eat this.
Yeah.
Oh,
no. Yeah. Then
really.
Then the resistance comes.
But I like my bag of Maltesers the night before a game.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to play better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fuck them off.
And then, that's just like, again, if young kids, they might have that superstition, or they just go with the flow. But hopefully through this whole process, the education, and they start to really understand or realize that, food has the ability to heal and has the ability to make your body stronger and perform better. And so they sort of get it more at a younger age, where, I was lucky that I had that whole food nutrition growing up, but I didn't know all that then. It was just what the Italian culture did. You grow your own, cook your own if you got the room. Then I learnt the hard way, but then after it, I seen my body repair and recover, and now my back's 100% fine. So 3 years ago, I had a disc replacement and a fusion done in my lower back to those two discs that I got operated on, because they were so collapsed from taking disc out and a piece breaking off that I went in and seen a surgeon, and I showed him my MRI, and he was like, mate, all your other discs look fantastic. All the tissues around there looks strong. He goes, mate, I recommend a disc replacement at L45, a fusion at L5S1, and you'll breeze through this operation. And so I backed him and went and did it, walked out of hospital day 4. I had a rest for 2 weeks, and after that, I've never felt better.
Yeah,
it's been amazing.
What I really like about having this conversation with you, and you implementing this nutrition plan, is I think about anytime I try to change things, what gets in the way is accessibility and convenience. Yeah. So you've clearly thought about that. Well, convenience, we bring it to you. Okay, eat X, Y, Z. Well, I've never cooked anything before. It's just my cooking is, and I know players that my cooking is
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. You're asking me to eat pasture-raised chicken. Like, how to cook the thing?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so you're giving them the tools. You're not holding the hands, but you're making it easier for them to, adapt and apply.
Yeah, and that's always when you feel like, I've got to change everything in my diet or I've got to improve. The hardest thing is that next step, because of where do I get the produce from?
Yeah.
How do I cook? And that's one thing that I'm doing the nutrition workshops with for myself. Kicking off on the 25th of Feb is I'm going to give people the tools and then so they understand the reasons why first and foremost, and then give them the tools on how to do these things, why the 4 simple steps works. And then, slow cooker is the easiest thing to do. Like, it's so easy. You can have nutritious food on hand at home all the time with the slow cooker. So just stepping it out, giving them the information on where to get things, on how to do it, is my goal. Yeah.
I've got a good friend of mine actually. Him and his wife Pia, Luke Winder. He took off from Sydney and he started a farm called Tarthur Place down somewhere in rural New South Wales, and he swears by it.
Yeah.
They now produce food, but I guess it's just you get. So, he's like, mate, just and they've taken away the, that. Well, how do you get it? So they send out packs. But I guess I've not valued it enough, but it's something that is certainly on my radar because, speaking to you, I know it can really change people's lives.
100%. Like, so I've seen it firsthand because another program that I do a lot of speaking for is Matt Elliott's program, the Change Room program. Yeah. Great guy. So in 2012, he was our assistant coach, and he was coming in, he looked like he was just in pain the whole time, and I started chatting to him, and he didn't actually tell me at the time, but he had an autoimmune disease. He was injecting himself every day, and I gave him that Weston A. Price lecture that I first watched, and he studied nutrition, the conventional dietitian food pyramid stuff. Anyway, it sort of was the complete opposite what the lecture that I showed him, and he was like, I've learnt this, and he's sure. And anyway, he started diving into the science behind it, which is there. It's just very well hidden by bigger corporations. And he started practicing it, and within 6 months, he was off all his medication. He went back to his doctor, and the doctor was like, mate, you don't have an autoimmune disease. You must be an anomaly. You must be, they just brushed it aside like, we misdiagnosed you, So that's when Matt come to me 4 years later and said, mate, I'm starting the Change Room program, which is a holistic wellbeing program. He goes, I want you to speak on nutrition. This is what happened to me. I didn't tell you at the time. Anyway, so we've done countless amount of programs now, and we've seen thousands of people, and we've seen guys reverse type 2 diabetes, reverse autoimmune, lose 7 kilos in a week, go on to lose 40 kilos. Like, it's just unbelievable, the health stories that we've had just from revamping their diet. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
It sounds it, mate. And I think it's something that I need to focus on to get the best out of myself. It's just going to require some discipline and some restructuring and
it's just trying to create healthy habits at home. Yeah.
So for healthy habits, for the the punters out there that cost of living crisis, inflation rising. Yeah. What can the people? What simple steps can people do that isn't going to cost them financially? So I'm assuming we're going to talk fast, water.
Yep. So the things that you can control, obviously your food intake, your hydration, your sleep, and a bit of natural sunlight. Those are the foundations for health. In terms of food and pricing, like, going strict organic, then it's going to cost a little bit more, right? Or go grass-fed meat compared to grain-fed meat, it might cost a little bit more. But when you go to the butcher and you source out grass-fed produce or pasture-raised produce, chickens, whatever, what you want to be buying is like the cheaper cuts, like the slow cook cuts. Like if you get lamb riblets, cost nothing, or if you get lamb shanks or the osso bucco, the shin of the cow, all those cuts are cheaper than if you go to a butcher and go, I want a Scotch fillet or T-bone. You know, that's going to cost an arm and a leg for some people, and they can't afford that. And even for me, I like these other cuts too, not because it's cheaper, but they offer us more nutrition anyway, because they're the connective tissue muscles of the animal. So if it comes from a healthy animal, those ligaments, tendons, all those fat-soluble vitamins are going to repair our ligaments and tendons. So again, if you slow cook them overnight through the day with your slow cooker, they become really soft and they just fall off the bone. Then I steam a heap of veggies or roast a heap of veggies, make a salad. Really simple process. Or you can buy chicken bones, 2 chicken carcasses, and you make a bone broth. You fill that up with water, put it in the slow cooker for 24 hours, salt and pepper, and then you strain the bones out, and there's so much meat on those bones from the carcass already. There's another 2 or 3 meals there, and then you've got all this batch of bone broth. You know, there's heaps of different ways that you can navigate around and be more cost effective.
Is bone broth basically just a stock?
It's a stock, yeah.
It's a stock,
it's just boiling bones over a period of time. So again, it needs to come from a healthy animal, right? Yeah. So what you're doing is you're pulling all the fat-soluble vitamins and the collagen out of those bones over a period of time. So low heat, so it just happens really slowly. So you don't cook. You know, when we're roasting, we should be roasting on 130 degrees or lower in the oven, so you're not burning all the nutrition out of it. You're not cooking it too quickly. That's why the slow cooker is so easy, right? You just put it on low, hit 10 hours, and just see you later. It's a piece of piss. You can't stuff it up. And after that liquid that you get from the bone broth after you strain the bones out is got all 9 essential amino acids that the body can't produce, that the body needs from food. And it's full of collagen. Now, all in our musculoskeletal system, we're made up of collagen, right? Bones, hair, ligaments, tendons, nails, skin. And as we age, our collagen production decreases. That's the aging process. So if you can replace that with good quality bone broth, good quality collagen powder, then what you're doing is, prolonging the aging process. But it's like a oiling system for joints and rebalancing of gut bacteria, really good for bone broth. So it has these huge, huge benefits. And that was a massive part of my recovery. And you buy bones for $5-10. Well, back in 2008, the butchers were giving them away.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But now
do you throw any like veggies in there for the stock?
You can, yeah. My daughter likes it plain. She likes chicken broth plain, so let's just do it plain. But you can throw veggies, onions, whatever you want it in. Yep.
Mate, you're an absolute fountain of knowledge when it comes to nutrition. I won't have to get myself to one of these.
That's why you create those healthy habits at home.
Yeah.
And try not to shop when you're hungry, and that's when you buy away all the snack foods. Yeah. If you don't have all those the snack foods or the enticement foods or the high palatable foods in your house, then you're not enticed to go and. That's why I try and create your foundation at home, and then when you go out, just enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Well, like I say, an absolute fountain of knowledge, and I want to try and get myself to one of your seminars, mate.
100%, mate. Come along.
I need to know more. 3 questions for every guest this year. So I think I might know the answer to this one. Something to do with a farm. But if rugby league didn't exist or you hadn't made it, what do you feel you'd be doing right now?
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, because I grew up on a farm, we had a great childhood. Lots of room to move and what we talked about with the eggs and chickens and cows. But my first sport was actually gymnastics. And how I got into it was just through a family friend who was a gymnastics coach. My brother started league when he was 6, and I'm older than him. So I didn't play league. I didn't really want to play league at the time. So I got into gymnastics. And I was tumbling and trampolining and going to state and all that type of stuff. And then just a friend sort of asked me at school, come on, join the local rugby league team. And that was when I was 10. So if league didn't happen, who knows? I maybe would have been a gymnast. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Interesting answer. Speaking of interesting, you had a really great life. lots of things happening on and off the field. Who's the most interesting person that
I
you've
know
met?
this is a good question. This is one that stumped me quite a bit. You know, you meet great people along the way through rugby league circles, and you get to meet famous people and whatnot. But I don't know, the most interesting that I'd sort of know and speak to quite a lot is probably the guy I learn off, Aaron McKenzie. Like he is on like the cutting edge and the forefront of everything all the time. So you chat about a topic and he's studied it or he's read about it. So you could ask him anything and the conversation will take off, you know. So I find Aaron really interesting. And yeah, he's the guy that sort of got me back on track, and yeah, I would say him.
Okay, and I think about this from time to time about my own life and certain decisions, and you know, if you go left or if you go right, what would have happened, and those sliding doors moments. But in your career or your life, what's your biggest sliding doors moment?
So I don't think about it too much at all. I've always been a guy who's like, I've never, if you make a decision, I don't look back and say, oh, I regret that. The only thing I did regret was probably not telling my wife to come up to Origin 1. But then, you know, I was lucky enough to get reselected in 2011 when I was coming back, and you know, she got to watch me play, so that was great. But you know, even through my injury period, people say, oh, I must have been an awful time, and you regret now partying too hard and all that type of stuff. But I don't. It was just the path that I was on, and that's why I have MiniFit now. It's why I studied nutrition. That's my next. And now it's my new passion. That's why I've got into it, and my transition to retirement has been much smoother. So all those things, and the partying early days, and deterioration of my body, you could say that's a sliding doors moment if I
if you don't go on that path.
If I knew what I knew now when I was 24, mate, I would have played 400 games. But you know, that's I don't regret anything from that time. You know,
or maybe if you'd have believed the doctors that said, look, you dish the black, like, and then you get into that self-fulfilling prophecy of well, I'm screwed anyway. Just I'm gonna have to take I'm gonna have to take 6 anti-inflams instead of 4.
And one of them, I suppose, one moment was you're faced with retirement. You're just a millimetre away from your spinal cord. Any type of hit could maybe put you in a wheelchair. And then I suppose there was a sliding doors moment there. And when you're thinking about, well, you know, this is just a game. I've got the rest of my life to live. But again, it was my wife at the time saying, but you got to find out the reasons why. Why is that? Why are they black and someone else's is still white at your age? And you got to find that. And so that was maybe a moment there back in 2008, I reckon. Yeah.
Because I guess the easy answer could have just been, oh, it's from footy. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Like it's par for the course. Like it.
Oh well, you know, when I first had those back injuries, you know, I wasn't blaming myself. I was like, oh, mate, we trained too hard through that era. You know, you know, well, it wasn't because we drank all weekend and had all those prescription meds.
Yeah. Why did they do like making us do Malcolms?
And why would we do that double beat test that time?
Why are we doing hundreds for again? Like,
all that.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah. That was the start of That's what happened back then. But then you realise it's just what my own doing, really. Yeah.
Well, that's a brilliant chat, mate. I feel like I've learned a lot from you. I'm interested to learn more as well, because it's an area of my life that I think requires a little bit more dedication and discipline. I think I'll reap the benefits from that. I've got a couple of health issues myself that I'd like to see fixed, and I think, you know, tried other areas, but I think nutrition is the next step for me to take. And mate, it's been a fantastic career. It's been great to chat with you about yesteryear and coming through and the path that you're on now. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. It's amazing what you're doing with the next generation, not just at the Roosters, but in the community as well with your MiniFit programs, mate. You should be incredibly proud of that. You're making a real difference in a time that is very difficult for for young children to navigate through, and those easy distractions that are there. But it's clear that you care and you're very passionate about it, and I hope that you continue on with that.
No, I appreciate it, mate. You know, we played against each other towards the back end of my career, mate. So we've always had good times and good chats. But this has been awesome, mate. So I appreciate you having me.
No, thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Pleasure.
Thanks, mate.